everyone and welcome to this new video. In this video, we will start with a short introduction about strings. Throughout this course, we will have a more detailed section on strings. First of all, what is a string? A string is a sequence of characters, and in C#, as you can see in this example, a string is surrounded by quotes. So, same as declaring a variable, we will have to fill in the string type. Then we will have to name it, first name for example, and assign it a value, medi for example. I'm going to create a second string variable that I'll call name, and I'll assign it or belay it as a string. Finally, I'm going to create a third string variable named names that will contain the two first name and last name variables. You can also concatenate strings by using the plus operator. So in this example, I'm adding the first name as an empty string to create a space. And finally, the last name. This method of concatenating strings might create strange things when you compile the program. You can have different variables that you concatenate, and it is difficult to visualize the output we will get. If this is the case, you can use the format method. In C#, this method belongs to the .NET Framework string class. You probably know that our classes can have attributes and methods, and that we can declare these members as static, which means that we can access them directly to the class without creating an object. So in the example you can see here, this formatting method of the string class is what we call a static method. So we can access it directly by using the string.format. This method passes a few parameters. Indeed, the first one is a string format that we use to build our string, which means we will place braces at specific places with a number that will allow us to retrieve the variables that we will put after this comma. The brace with 0 corresponds to the first variable and the 1 to the second one. It's the same principle as the indexes we have in the notion of array. The 0 corresponds to the first variable. So, as you can see in this example, it's much easier to visualize the output than to concatenate several strings together. You might have an object array and you can create a string by combining all the elements of the array by using a separator. So in this example, we have an integer array with the values 1, 2, and 3. And in the second line, we call the join method of the string class, which is a static method and passes two arguments as parameters. The first argument is a separator. In this case, I would like to combine the three numbers by using a comma. The second argument of this method is the array from which we would like to combine these elements. In short, here I have an int array and I will create a string variable that will contain a string from the values of the array thanks to the join method, and each value will be separated by a separator that we will put in the join method. Here we have put the comma, but you can also put a dot, a dash, etc. Now let's take our first name. As you probably know, it is possible to access each of its individual characters by using an index. For example, we will create a char type variable. Indeed, chars contain a single character and we will assign it the first letter of the string. We will retrieve the variable and the number 0 in brackets will correspond to the first letter of the string. For example, it will match the second one, etc. One thing you need to know about strings in C# is that strings are immutable, which means that once you create them, you can't change them. So back to our example here, we can read the value of the first character in our string, but we can't change it. So if we try to do that, it won't work and it won't compile. There are methods in the string class that allow us to manipulate strings and change their values, but all these methods return a new string so that the original string is not changed, and that's why we say immutable. We'll see now that there are some special characters in C# that sometimes have different meanings. For example, if you want to add a new line in your string, you need to use a backslash followed by the letter n. And then when the compiler recognizes it, it will consider that it will make a line break. On the other hand, if you don't add this backslash, the compiler will just see a letter n. Similarly, if you want to make a tab in your string, you need to use a backslash followed by the letter t. This brings us to an interesting situation. For example, if you want to use a backslash in your string to quote it in a website or something, because when the compiler says it as if we are using a special character, it is not the result we expect and it could be a problem. So if we want to indicate to the compiler that it sees this backslash as being a simple character, we have to prefix this backslash with a second backslash. And this is what we call escape characters in C#. The list of special characters is actually even longer. You can look at the Microsoft documentation, but the ones you can see in this area are the ones you will commonly use in your life as a C# developer. However, there is a small problem. For example, look at this path variable here. We have to indicate to the compiler every time that it's a backslash by putting a second one in front of the main one. This is not very clean, and errors can happen very quickly. In C# there is a thing that allows us to rectify this. And this thing is an add. Thanks to the verbatim identifier, we don't need to use all those double backslashes. We can simply prefix our string with the add sign. We can use only one backslash. Now we are done with strings. Let's go to Visual Studio.